Welcome to the Beaumont Manufacturing and Distribution Training and Repair Series, where we break down essential valve maintenance with clarity and precision. Today, we will be doing a complete tear down and rebuild of our CV30 direct acting control valve. Shown here is the list of tools required for the repair. Using a wrench, loosen the screws on the actuator spring cover, then remove the spring cover from the upper housing. Use a socket to remove the bolts and travel indicator from the stem block. Remove the two halves of the stem block. Use a wrench to remove the actuator mounting bolts. Lift the actuator assembly from the valve and set it to the side. Using a large adjustable wrench, unthread the packing plug from the bonnet. The packing spring and one or both of the spherical washers will normally remain on the back side of the cage. Remove these and set them to the side. Use a socket or wrench to loosen and remove the bonnet bolts. The bonnet can be difficult to remove if the valve has been in service for an extended period of time. If needed, use a flathead screwdriver or small pry bar between the body and bonnet to pry the bonnet up a bit at a time, working around the outside perimeter until it can be lifted free. Remove the upper cage O-ring. The cage assembly can also be difficult to remove if the valve has been in service. If it cannot be removed by lifting up on the stem, use a cage removal tool. Put the two halves of the tool around the top of the cage. Place the hose clamp around the outside of the two halves of the cage removal tool and tighten it with a screwdriver. Then tighten the 4 bolts down into the cage tool a little at a time with a socket wrench to pull the cage free of the body. Check to see if the lower cage O-ring has lifted out with the cage assembly. If it is not around the bottom of the seat, then it has been left in the body. Remove it. Begin disassembling the cage assembly by removing the lower body O-ring. Then use a seat removal tool to unthread the seat from the bottom of the cage. Remove the seat. Use a pick to remove the soft seat from the seat ring. Use a dead blow hammer to gently tap the top of the stem to drive the plug assembly out of the cage. Use a pick to remove the quad ring and backup rings from inside the cage. Use a socket wrench to loosen and remove the plug bolt. Remove the plug tip, plug ring, and plug O-ring. Use a 1/8 inch punch to drive out the roll pin connecting the stem to the plug. Then unthread the plug from the stem. Take the packing plug and remove the O-ring from the bottom of it. Turn the packing plug over and use snap ring pliers to remove the snap ring. Then use the pick again to remove the small retaining washer and the felt ring underneath. If the spherical washers are still inside, remove them with a pick. Continue to use the pick or a punch and a hammer to remove the packing. To begin the actuator breakdown, remove the nut from the upper stem. Remove the spring plate and then the spring. Remove all the nuts and bolts, then lift off the upper housing. Next, pull the diaphragm assembly from the lower housing. Remove the O-rings from the upper and lower housings. To break down the diaphragm, start by removing the cotter pin. Next, loosen the upper stem with a wrench and then unthread it. Then remove the washer, diaphragm, and the diaphragm O-ring. Finally, remove the diaphragm plate and lower bearing washer. Now that the valve is completely disassembled, inspect all parts for wear and damage. Clean up the existing parts and replace damaged parts as needed. BMD recommends replacing all O-rings and packing when rebuilding a valve. Repair kits are available through our distributors and reps. To reassemble the valve, start by rebuilding the diaphragm assembly. Make sure the lower nut is almost at the end of the stem threads. Then install the lower bearing washer, diaphragm plate, and the diaphragm O-ring. The CV30 uses a molded diaphragm. Make sure that the concave side of the diaphragm faces toward the diaphragm plate. Next, put on the washer. Thread on the upper stem until the holes in the two stems line up. Install the cotter pin and bend the ends over. Use 2 wrenches to tighten the upper and middle stems together, compressing the diaphragm. Install the housing O-ring into the lower diaphragm housing. Apply grease to the end of the diaphragm assembly stem, then place the diaphragm assembly into the lower housing. Use caution during this step to prevent damaging the housing O-ring. Place the O-ring back into the upper housing. Grease the chamfer on the upper stem of the diaphragm assembly and then place the upper housing back onto the lower housing, using caution here as well. Reinstall all the housing nuts and bolts, remembering to put back the nameplate as well. The cage assembly contains all the parts of a BMD trim repair kit. This entire assembly can be purchased and swapped out as a single unit. For the purposes of this video, the rebuilding of this assembly will be shown. Begin by threading the plug back onto the lower stem and use a hammer and punch to reinstall the roll pin. Rebuild the plug assembly starting with the plug O-ring followed by the plug ring and plug tip. Coat the plug bolt with thread locker and then insert and tighten the bolt. Then reinstall the first cage backup ring followed by the cage quad ring and then the second cage backup ring. Grease the cage seals well, then push the plug assembly into the cage. Reinstall the soft seat insert. Thread on the seat ring and use a seat tool to tighten it. Install the upper and lower cage O-rings and grease them. Grease the seat ring well to help hold the body O-ring in place. Put the body O-ring onto the seat ring and apply more grease. Then place the cage assembly into the valve body. Press the assembly into the body until the lower cage O-ring is inside the upper body bore. A dead blow hammer may be needed to help get the cage seated into the body. Place the bonnet over the top of the cage and press it into place. If it is too difficult to press down all the way, use 2 of the bonnet bolts to pull it into place. Apply anti-seize to the bonnet bolts, then install them. Use a socket wrench to tighten the bolts. The packing repair kit contains the following parts except for the packing plug and O-ring. The 2-inch takes 1 felt washer and the larger sizes take 2 felt washers. Rebuild the packing plug assembly. To ensure the longest possible packing life, BMD recommends greasing the packing using a synthetic multi-purpose grease before installation. Apply it between each packing ring, then restack the rings. Each ring set needs a bottom ring, followed by 5 V-rings, then an upper ring. Install the packing into the packing plug, making sure that the taller upper ring goes in first. Use a hollow tube and a hammer to tap it into place. Install the packing plug O-ring. Turn the packing plug over and place a felt ring into the top of the packing plug. Place the retaining washer over the felt ring and install the snap ring. Grease the packing plug O-ring, then apply anti-seize to the threads of the packing plug. Place the packing spring over the stem onto the top of the cage. Then, put the lower spherical washer onto the top of the spring, making sure the convex side is facing up. Now, place the upper spherical washer onto the lower, making sure the concave side is facing down so that the 2 nest together. Place the packing plug down over the stem and thread it into place until it stops. Tighten it using a large wrench. Place the spring and spring plate on top of the housing and thread on the lock nut, but do not tighten with a wrench until the end. Put the actuator assembly onto the top of the bonnet and install the stem blocks and travel indicator. Reinstall the bonnet bolts and tighten them with a socket wrench. Using a wrench, tighten the lock nut until the travel indicator aligns with the top mark on the travel scale. Place the spring cover over the top of the spring and tighten the bolts with a wrench. Thanks for watching, and please visit BeaumontManufacturing.com for more information and resources on all of our products.